time for another preview. Hey guys, welcome back to another match preview. This is Fulham versus Chelsea. This game has turned into an absolutely massive game for the Blues as they look to turn around, for lack of a better word, their terrible form as of late. So before we get into that, just take a moment to like this video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to my channel because I can see that there's a lot of people that watch videos but don't subscribe. Promise to have a lot of good content coming up, especially with the run of games that Chelsea have. And make sure to turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any videos. Now that I've said all of that, let's get into this preview. Fulham are in their best run of form since the start of the Premier League, and actually since a couple of their runs in the Premier League. They're undefeated in their last 5 games, getting 5 draws. But not only that, some of their draws were versus Liverpool, Southampton, and Tottenham, which we know are very difficult teams to get any type of results against, as we have seen as Chelsea fans. So for everybody who's saying that this is going to be a walk in the park, it's going to be a very easy game, no it is not. They are in a great run of form. Chelsea have 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 losses in their last 5 Premier League games. So obviously that is excluding the recent FA Cup game versus Morecambe. But yeah, so Fulham are actually in better form, and I, as a Chelsea fan, am quite worried for this game because it seems that Chelsea really are lacking in identity. And one of the main problems that Chelsea have, in my opinion, is that they have bought Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, but it seems that we're not playing in a system that is really suitable for them to get the best out of what their strengths are. So we've seen that Frank Lampard is really sticking to this 4-3-3 system, but in that system, Werner has not looked great. I'm hoping with him playing down the middle, it will help since he did play a large majority of games on the wing. But that being said, in this system, I do feel that you really need a target man to play against, and he's not the target man that I would necessarily think of. I would think of him more as somebody who you can use to take advantage of teams that play a high line and use his pace to get in behind them. But as a target man, I think that Tammy or Giroud do the job much better. Taking a look at Kai Havertz, we saw in the Morecambe game, towards the end of the game, I believe he was playing more centrally. He was playing in that 10 role, and he didn't have to worry as much about the defensive responsibilities, given it was Morecambe. But still, in that 10 role, he's playing a little bit further up the pitch, so he's able to be creative to try to make those runs, create that space. We saw that he got a really good goal getting into that space in the box, which I think he's found harder to do as an 8, especially because he plays a little bit lower on the pitch. It seems that he's worried about giving the ball away, losing possession. 4-3-3 formation for him has not looked great, but that formation does favor other players like Mason Mount, like Christian Pulisic. N'Golo Kante has looked reasonably good in that formation, I would like to think. Not recently, but for the most part, I think he's looked pretty solid as a 6. So if we do play to a 4-2-3-1, again, seems that Kai Havertz would be in a more favorable position for him. But then you have the problem that in a 4-2-3-1, Mason Mount doesn't really play, and we know how much Frank Lampard relies on Mason Mount to start his press and get it going. So honestly, it is a real conundrum. I have no idea what Frank Lampard is going to do, but more and more as Chelsea fans, at least in my opinion, it feels that we bought these players just because they were available and they were good players, but I don't know if Frank necessarily has an idea with how to get the best out of each of these players. And I hope that he does get there. I really do, because these are great players that we have on our hands, but we need to get the best out of all of them. It's a real nightmare trying to figure out which system works for everybody, what's going to get the best, how you can rotate, but that's his job, and that's why it's not my job. So with all of this being said, I really have no idea which system Frank Lampard is going to play versus Fulham, and here's why. N'Golo Kante is suspended, so he cannot play, which means if we were to play in a 4-3-3 formation, we would likely see Billy Gilmour as a lone 6. But that could potentially leave us defensively open without having somebody with maybe a little bit more experience, a little bit more defensive prowess than Billy Gilmour to help out alongside him, which could suggest that we would see Jorginho or Kovacic alongside him in a pivot playing a 4-2-3-1. As I mentioned before, where does Mount fit in that 4-2-3-1? I don't think he fits in that system. And I also don't think in such a big must-win game that Lampard is not going to play Mason Mount. I just don't, because I think that Lampard really relies on Mason Mount, especially with his initiating of the press, trying to sniff out those passes. I do think that Mason is important. So I really don't know. I think it's either play 4-2-3-1 and bench Mount, or play 4-3-3, potentially be open defensively, and play Havertz a little bit out of position. Which one do I think he's gonna go for? Probably the 4-3-3, but honestly, I'm 50-50. So let's take a look at that 4-3-3 formation, because I could really talk about this and go back and forth on it all day. We obviously have Mendy in goal. As I mentioned before, Reece James is back from injury, so I do expect to see him back in the starting lineup in that right back spot, with Kurt Zouma and Thiago Silva as the center back pairing and Ben Chilwell as left back. If we do play 4-3-3, Gilmour as a 6, I do want to see it, I kind of do want to see it, with Mount and Havertz as the 8. And something that we could potentially see is Mount shifting back a little bit to help cover Havertz defensively, and then Havertz moving into that 10 role. I think it could be interesting that, you know, you don't have to always have a static system when you play. We could easily shift from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. So it could be one to know. I would like to see that actually. And now in the attack, it gets even more interesting, because there are massive debates as to who gets that left wing spot and who gets that striker spot. I think for the most part we can all agree that Hakim Ziyech is going to be playing on that right hand side. Not only that, I think that Ziyech is going to be extremely valuable for breaking down this Fulham side, because Chelsea are going to have the majority of the possession and we're going to need to try to be creative to get anything. Keep in mind, this Fulham side has only conceded 3 goals in their last couple of games. So now taking a look at that left hand side, as much as it breaks my heart, I do think that Callum deserves to start. He has looked like a better player than Pulisic has when he's been on the pitch, and he's done more than Pulisic has. He's been getting goals, he's been getting assists, and Pulisic just looks a little bit rusty coming out of injury, getting back into the side. It doesn't help that it coincides with the team just not playing well as a whole, but he just looks unsure of that final pass. A lot of things I see him overthinking, and last season I felt like he would have taken a shot and probably scored, and this season is just not coming off just yet. So if you're playing players based off of merits, then Callum definitely deserves to start. He does. And that's coming from the biggest Pulisic fan in the world, honestly. But Callum deserves to start for me. And now, at the striker position, what do? Do you keep Timo Werner as the forward and give him a little bit, try to give him a little bit of confidence? Since he did score versus Morecambe, he hasn't had the best confidence, he hasn't had the best record in the Premier League so far. So you let him try to build off of that. Or in this must-win game, do you go with somebody who has been scoring goals like Tammy or Giroud? It's a really difficult situation. Personally, I would play Tammy. I think that for the purpose of this game, he has great hold-up play. He's becoming a very good target man. I think that him and Ziyech do have a bit of chemistry. He's getting a lot better. And you could perfectly also play Giroud, because that Ziyech-Giroud combination with the cross and the headers could be amazing as well. So there's so many possibilities. Honestly, I think it's like a 33% chance for all of them at this point. But for me personally, I would start Tammy ahead of Werner. You can bring him on, but I just think that it's such a massive game, I wouldn't risk it. but I would not be surprised to see Werner starting. It really is a must-win game for Chelsea. Lampard's job could absolutely be on the line if Chelsea lose. I do not even want to see what social media would be like if Chelsea drop points. So really, this game has turned into a must-win. I'm very nervous as a Chelsea fan. I'm not feeling extremely confident going into this game, but I'm hoping that Frank can sort the tactics, sort the players. I hope that the players can find some confidence in themselves, build off of that Morecambe win, and get the win versus Fulham. And if we do win, I'm gonna be extremely happy, honestly, because a win's a win, first of all, but this Fulham team has looked very good as of late. It's not going to be an easy game. That being said, my score prediction is 2-1. I really don't think it's going to be as easy as a lot of people are making it out to be, but I am hoping for the best. So thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it if you got so far into this video, and leave me a comment below to let me know that you did. And if you have any questions, let me know and I'll get back to you ASAP, because I just love talking to you guys. Okay, so I'll see you for the Fulham review. I'm out.